Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Looks like we have a full house. I'd like to thank you very much for coming on time, and luckily we are trying to start on time, so hopefully we should be going in a second. Last week we looked at the importance of the Bhagavad Gita. This week we wanted to put the Bhagavad Gita in context, in terms of how did it come about? Why was the Bhagavad Gita spoken by Krishna to Arjuna? In what sort of setting was it spoken? And what were the events that led to this incredible scripture? So I'm going to start from it's actually the story of the Mahabharata. And many of you will know Mahabharata is a very important itihas, a historical scripture. And it was composed by Srila Vedvyas, who we discussed last week. And it's huge, 110,000 verses. 110,000. The Bhagavad Gita is only 700 verses. Right? Mahabharata is 110,000 verses. And put that in context, the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is another scripture we're studying at the moment, is 18,000 verses. So Mahabharata is humongous. And it's Bhagavad Gita is an episode within the Mahabharata. Mahabharata is considered Smriti. Again, we touched on that last time. What Smriti is a type of scripture which is remembered. It's something that can change over time. But the Bhagavad Gita, even though it's within the Mahabharata, is known as Shruti. Shruti is directly the words of the Supreme Lord. Those cannot be changed. So this instruction of Bhagavad Gita is fundamental. It's eternal principle. And Mahabharata means the great history of the Bharatas. Bharat actually is another term for India. We don't like to use the word India, actually. Bharat is its original name. And Bharat is actually a spiritual name. King Bharat, he was an ancestor of both the Pandavas and the Kauravas, who you will see will be fighting in this war of Mahabharata. So this king was actually very unique. He saw that his sons were not qualified to succeed him as the king. And therefore, he appointed another person who was qualified in order to rule the kingdom. So anyway, after many generations, there was another king who came, Shantanu. Shantanu is quite famous. He married the beautiful Ganga Devi. Ganga is a very famous river, holy river in India, in Bharat. Now, she married him, but she only agreed to marry him if he fell in love with her, because she's so beautiful. But she made a condition that he should never ask any questions of her. Anything she does, he will have to accept. Over the years, they had many children, many sons. But every son they had, Ganga used to throw the son into the river. And Shantanu would become very distressed, but he would never question his queen because he had made that promise. But finally, he snapped. When the 8th son was born, Shantanu stopped the queen from going to the river and he asked, "Why are you doing this?" Now, Ganga actually then revealed herself to Shantanu. He didn't know who she was, a celestial being. She also explained to him that these children, the 7 children that have gone, they were actually celestial beings and they had been cursed. So they lived a short life. But the 8th child, who now will live because of you, he will have to suffer in this world sometime. So he's not going to be so lucky. Now, so she ended the punishment of the 7 children quickly, but the 8th child because he actually had been a little bit naughtier in his last life, had to suffer a bit more. Now, because Santanu had questioned her, she left, but she took her son with her, Devrat his name was, and she promised Shantanu, I will bring him back when the time is right. So she took Devrat to the heavens, and he had the most exalted teachers, Parshuram, Vashishta, Brahaspati. These are really exalted personalities in the heavenly planets who taught Devrat. Now, Devrat is more popularly known as Bhishma. Okay, there are some children who are coming late. Please don't be late in the future if you can help it. But also, in order that we can register you into the class, put your full name and your age in the chat, please. So Devrat is better known as Bhishma. And I think pretty much everybody here will be quite familiar with this incredible personality. Now, he received this name because this name actually means terrible vow. He took a terrible vow. His father, Shantanu, he fell in love with a lady called Satyavati, who in fact is also the mother of Srila Vyasdev. We'll see that a little bit later. But the father of Satyavati said to Shantanu, yes, you want to marry my daughter, but only her sons can become the king. Now, he had a dilemma because his son, Devrat, was very qualified. Oh, Dhenu and Navda, please turn off your camera, and you as well, Palika. So the now the king became very sad, and he didn't want to disappoint Devrat. So he didn't marry Satyavati, but he became very upset, very depressed. Devrat found out what the reason why his father was upset, and he went to the father of Satyavati and he said, I promise you that I will not have any children. So the children of your daughter, Satyavati, will be the next king of Hastinapur. Now, the father wasn't even happy with that. He said, how do I know you won't get married? You might get married somewhere else at some other time, and your children will then claim the right to the throne. Devrat, he made a vow. I promise I will never marry. Now, this is really a terrible vow for a Kshatriya, for a ruler, for a king or a warrior to make a vow like this. It's unprecedented. Never before has anybody done that. That's why he's known as Bhishma, the terrible vow. Anyway, years later, Satyavati and Shantanu had children, two children, Chitrangad and Vichitravirya. Now, unfortunately, Chitrangad died young, no children. Vichitravirya, Bhishma, he kidnapped three sisters, Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika, to get married to Vichitravirya. Unfortunately, Amba had already dedicated herself to somebody else. So she was in no man's land. She couldn't marry Vichitravirya, and the person she was in love with wouldn't marry her. So she came to Bhishma and said, you have to now marry me. But Bhishma said, hey, I've taken a vow. I'm not going to marry you. Anyway, that was a whole episode on its own. I could spend an hour just talking about that, but we'll move on. So Bhishma, now what happened was, unfortunately, Vichitravirya passed away as well without any children. Now Satyavati, the mother of Vichitravirya, she said to Bhishma, now you can marry, doesn't matter. But Bhishma said, no, I have made a vow. I will not break my vow. So Satyavati was in a dilemma, what to do. But she had another son. She had another son. His name was Bhishma. And sorry, his name was Vyasdev. Now Vyasdev was a sage. she called upon the sage, and he said to the Vyasdev, I am your mother and I order you. We need progeny to continue the dynasty of Hastinapur. And I order you to give me children with these two princesses. And Vyasdev was very obedient boy. He said, yes, I will do that. So he went before the princesses. One of them, because he looked quite terrible, he was a sage after all. He used to be in the forest, he used to meditate, and they didn't shave, they didn't bathe, they were just meditating on the Lord. So he didn't smell too good, he didn't look too good. So the first princess closed her eyes. And then Vyasdev said to his mother, Satyavati, that the child will be born blind, unfortunately, because she closed her eyes. So the second princess, she became terrified on seeing Vyasdev. And so Vyasdev said, he's going to look very pale to Satyavati. So then they decided, okay, one more try, Vyasdev, one more try, please. So then the princesses, they went to him, but they were too frightened of him. They sent a maid instead. And the maid, she was very respectful. She knew this is a great sage. And she was very, very respectful to him. So anyway, 3 children came. The first was Dhritarashtra, he was blind. The second was Pandu, he was pale. The third was the wise Vidur. She was born of the maid. He was very wise. He was born of the maid, and he was very, very wise. Now, although Dhritarashtra was the oldest, but he was blind, so he couldn't be the king. So they made Pandu the king. He married Kunti Devi. He married Madri. He had 2 wives. Unfortunately, one day he went in the forest. He was hunting. Kshatriyas at that time were allowed to hunt, to practice warfare. Anyway, he killed a gazelle, but the gazelle was actually a Brahmin priest who had turned himself into a gazelle to enjoy. And the Brahmin priest was shot by the arrow of Pandu, and he cursed him. Just the way I have died to enjoy, while I was enjoying my wife, you will also die in the same way if you try to enjoy with your wife. Now, Pandu, being cursed like that, resigned the throne. He went to the forest, lived in the forest. His wife, first wife, Kunti, she told him, hey, I've got magical power. You want children? I was given a mantra by the famous Durvasa Muni one time, and I can give you children. Pandu was amazed. How can you do this? I can call upon the devatas to come and give us children. Pandu said, yes, please do so. First, they called upon Dharmraj, Yamraj, and Yudhishthir was born. Next, they called upon the Vayu, very powerful wind god. Bhim was born. Next, they called upon Arjun, the king of heaven. And they called upon Indra, the king of heaven, and Arjun was born. Now, Kunti was very generous. She realized Madri, the other wife of Pandu, her co-wife, didn't have any children. So she allowed the Ashwini Kumaras to come and give Madri Nakul and Sahadev. These are the Pandavas, the most heroic personalities of the Mahabharata. So this is the wonderful occasion of the birth of the young children. So years later, unfortunately, Pandu surrendered to the passion for Madri and he died. Kunti was left alone to raise the children. And she did. She raised them very nicely. In the meantime, Dhritarashtra, although he was simply caretaker king because he was blind, he couldn't really be the king forever. He had other plans. He married Gandhari, and between them, they had 100 children. Now, this was a really unusual. Here we've heard of test tube babies. Well, this is the first test tube baby. In fact, Gandhari, she gave birth to a lump of flesh, which was actually cut by Vyasadeva into 100 pieces and stored in special places. They became 100 children. The eldest was Duryodhan. When he was born, there was really bad omens of violence, and jackals were howling, there were strong winds, the fires raging through the city, very bad omens, and Dhritarashtra became worried. Vidura said to him, "Get rid of the child, he's bad news." But Dhritarashtra was a very weak ruler. And we saw in years later how Duryodhan, he would continuously cause so much grief to his father, to the whole family, to the dynasty, to the extent that they had a war which finished the whole dynasty, practically speaking. One time when they were young, they tried to, Duryodhan tried to kill Bhim. Bhim was his biggest rival because Bhim was very strong. They tied him up and tried to drown him. But actually what happened, Bhim became even stronger. We won't go into that pastime. They had a great teacher, the Pandavas, and the 100 sons were called the Kauravas. They had great teacher, Dronacharya. Now, Dronacharya, he was a very able guru. He would teach them warfare. And Dronacharya had a tiff with somebody called Drupad. And the Pandavas defeated, as Guru Dakshina, they defeated the king, this King Drupad, and conquered the kingdom. And Dronacharya gave half that kingdom back to Drupad. And Drupad was very upset with Drona. And vice versa. At one point, Drona was very upset with Drupad. But after conquering the kingdom, Drupad became very upset with Drona. He did a fire sacrifice, out of which 2 children were born. Dristadumna, who was destined to kill Dronacharya. So this was Drupad's desire. And there was a daughter as well who was born, and she would bring destruction to an unrighteous king. He had a 3rd son, Sikandi, who is none other than Amba, the one who was rejected by Bhishma, who remembered her past life, and he or she, Sikandi was he, Amba was she, came to destroy Bhishma. And she was instrumental in doing that. So one time there was a competition that was made by Dronacharya. He put a bird on a tree and he asked the princesses, "What do you see in the tree?" So Yudhishthira came and he said, "I see your lotus feet. I see the tree. I see the sky." Dronacharya wasn't very happy. Ashwatthama, his own son, came. Dronacharya's son. "What do you see?" "I see your lotus feet. I see a bird. I see the tree. I see other things." Dronacharya was not happy. He asked Arjun, "What do you see?" Arjun took aim. He said, "I only see the bird." And Dronacharya asked him again, "What do you see now?" "I only see the eye of the bird." So this is a proper student, focused. The other students may not have been so focused, but Arjun was so focused. And this is a fantastic example for all of you as children, as students. You've got a whole life ahead of you. Remain focused. Be very focused. Try not to waste your time in this life. Try to understand what is the purpose of life. Learn as much as you possibly can, not just spiritually, but materially as well. Learn, learn, learn. Don't waste your time playing so much Game Boy or Xbox, whatever the latest fashion is. It's a waste of time. Why waste time? You have such a fantastic opportunity. Become like Arjun, focused. So that pleased Dronacharya. I'm going to skip a few things. Actually, Kunti Mata, she had a child before the Pandavas. His name was Karn. She called upon, when she got that gift, she couldn't believe it. So she called upon Suryadev, and he actually turned up, and she was shocked. "Oh my God, I'm not married. How can you come?" So he gave her a child. His name was Karn. very powerful personality. But we'll see a huge mistake Kern makes. And again, a great example to us not to make the same mistake. I'll tell you that in a second. So Kern, unfortunately, was abandoned in the river by Kunti, and he was found by the chariot driver of King Dhritarashtra, and he was raised. If you see Kern, he's got golden armor on his body because he is the son of the sun god, very powerful personality. He was the eldest, actually, of all of them, but nobody knew that this Kern is one of the Pandavas. He's always known as Sutputra, son of the chariot driver. So in that way, he was always mocked right the way throughout his life. In fact, he came into the competition at the end of the studies. There was a competition that had been arranged. And Duryodhana, they were losing, Pandavas were winning. And at that moment, Kern entered. But when they asked him, what is your lineage? He couldn't say anything. So he was mocked. At that time, Duryodhana came to him and said, don't worry, Kern, I don't know who you are, but at least you are against the Pandavas, so you're my friend now. And I will make you a king. I'll give you a kingdom. Angaraj, you are now the king of Ang. So nobody can argue that you are not a warrior. Now, Kern at that moment gave his life and soul to Duryodhana. Throughout the Bhagavad, we will see Kern was actually a righteous person, but because he was so close to an unrighteous person, he became sinful and he became a lost character in the Bhagavad. So this is an example of don't take bad company. Yeah, keep good company, good people around you. If you have bad company, it may affect you. Like the Kern had one moment's association with Duryodhana and it finished him for his life. So be very careful. The company you keep is very important. So this is where Duryodhana makes him king. Okay, how much time we got? Okay, not too bad. So Duryodhana, they plotted to kill the Pandavas. They really didn't like them. Because Yudhishthira was very righteous, Bhima was very strong, Arjuna was very clever, and the twins were amazing as well. They were always envious of them. They really didn't like them. The 100 brothers of Duryodhana, they were always against the Pandavas. So one time they organized a holiday for the Pandavas, and they made the holiday home full of ghee and wood. And so it's very easily flammable, and that's what they did. They put it to they put that house of luck on fire, and they thought the Pandavas had died. But amazingly, thanks to the help of Vidur, the uncle, the wise uncle of the Pandavas and the mother Kunti Mata, they were all saying they escaped, and they stayed in incognito. They hid, letting everybody think that they had died. And many things happened whilst they were in incognito. Bhima married a Rakshashi called Hidimbi, and they had a son called Gadokchak. What was his name? Here is Gatotkacha. Very interesting character in the Mahabharata. Who helped his father Bhima a lot. Anyway, eventually the Pandavas heard about the marriage Swayambhar of Draupadi, and the sages, they requested the Pandavas, you should go there. You should go to that ceremony. You'll meet some interesting people. So they went disguised as Brahmins. And many people tried to win the hand of Draupadi. They had a fantastic competition. There was a bird on the ceiling, which was rotating, and there was a bit of water on the ground. So the idea was that the warrior would take aim, but look at the shadow, the water, the reflection of the water of the bird. or the fish rather, and had to fire the arrow to shoot the eye of the fish. Now, everybody failed. And even Kern tried. Well, he was stopped by trying by Draupadi. Eventually, this Brahmin turned up, disguised Arjun, of course, and he very easily won the contest. And Draupadi was very pleased, because although she didn't know who he was, she knew she didn't want to marry Duryodhana or Kern. Whoever this is better than Duryodhana and Kern. So you can see here, there's Arjun, there's the fish in the reflection, and he's firing the arrow, and he shot the fish in the eye. At that arena was Krishna. The first time he appears in this Mahabharata. Krishna was there, and Krishna recognized Arjun. They're related. And Balaram was also there with Krishna. This is Draupadi here, and this is Draupadi. So Krishna and Balaram were present at the Swayamvar, and Krishna, due to the Pandavas' hilarious appearance, immediately recognized the 5 Pandavas, even though they were disguised. Now, who is Krishna? Who can recognize Krishna? That's a little harder. It's a little harder to understand. So I'm just putting this up very quickly, just to give you a hint. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. It is quite a complex area of philosophy. But one should understand that our scriptures, especially the Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavad Puran, and the Brahma Samhita, describe that Krishna is the original supreme personality of Godhead. There's only one God. Now, you may have heard, Hindus have many gods. No, one God. But he can take many different forms. He can take the form of Balaram. His first expansion is Balaram, as powerful as Krishna. Then there's the quadruple expansion of Balaram. They're as powerful as Krishna. These are the avatars, the incarnations, Narayan. Then we have another quadruple expansion. Then we have Mahavishnu, Garbhadakshay Vishnu, and Shiradakshay Vishnu. These are the 3 different Vishnus. I won't go through any detail here, because this will in itself take a very long time. But just to understand that according to our scripture, I'm not making this up, according to our scriptures, and we depend on the scriptures, it explains that Krishna is the original supreme personality for it. These other personalities are as powerful as Krishna. But we've seen the pastime of Krishna's birth, where he comes as Vishnu first, and he turns himself into a baby Krishna. So many people feel that Vishnu is the original Supreme Lord, but actually the scriptures say otherwise. Okay, I won't spend too much time on that. So then Arjun won the hand of Draupadi. He took her to see his mother Kunti, and he said something like, I have brought a present for you. And she always had the habit of saying, share it amongst yourselves. So she said the same thing again, share it amongst yourselves. And they were all shocked. What do you mean, share? Draupadi, how can we? Now, Kunti Mata realized, oh no, you shouldn't have said that. This is not a gift. This is a personality. Draupadi, now I've said it. My words can't be wrong. So then they were really confused. At that time, Krishna came. Krishna came to them and said, don't worry, my dear Pandavas. This is all prearranged. In her past life, Draupadi, she prayed to Lord Shiva, and she asked him 5 times, I want a husband. 5 times. I'm not going to say that. And so she got 5 husbands in this life. So it was very unusual for that time, unusual for this time, for a lady to have 5 wives. But this is something that's divinely arranged. And they had a wonderful rapport amongst themselves, so they didn't quarrel with each other, having 1 wife. So anyway, then the Pandavas revealed themselves, and they presented themselves to the king, Dhritarashtra, and they asked the king for their share of the kingdom. They were actually the rightful rulers, because they were the eldest, they were the sons of the eldest king, Pandu. Anyway, Dhritarashtra refused, And the main reason he refused because Duryodhana was very against the Pandavas. Anyway, finally, in order to avoid a war, Dhritarashtra agreed to give them a part of the kingdom, a horrible part of the kingdom, Khandaprastha. It was just desert or forest. It was terrible. But Yudhishthira is such a gentleman. He said, yes, no problem. We'll take this. We have Krishna with us. What have we got lacking? And that's absolutely right. They've transformed Khandaprastha into the most glorious Indraprastha. Magnificent kingdom was built. I won't go into details. There's a lot of detail about this. They held Rajasuya sacrifice. They opened the kingdom with a great ceremony. All the kings of the world came, and Yudhishthira was crowned the king of the whole world. Duryodhana became so jealous, unbelievably jealous. Now, what really didn't help either was that palace was so amazing. It was unique. If there was some flooring, the person who built it made it seem like it was flooring, but actually it was water. Or if there was water, it wasn't water, it was flooring. So one time Duryodhana was walking and he avoided an area which he thought, nah, this must be water. So he avoided that. And then he went into another place where he thought, nah, there's no water here. And he fell into that water. Everybody started laughing. And Duryodhana became so humiliated. He vowed, I am going to take my revenge on these guys. So they organized a game of dice. And that was the person who initiated that was Sakuni. Sakuni is the uncle, Duryodhana's mama, Gandhari's birth brother. And Sakuni was a professional dice player. He had some amazing dice which would obey his every order. And Yudhishthira, he accepted the gambling match. This is what Kshatriyas, if they were challenged, they had to accept a challenge. Otherwise, they were not regarded as Kshatriyas. So Yudhishthira had no choice. He went to this gambling match with his brothers and his wife and his mother. And it was, okay, what happened? Sorry. And he lost. He lost so badly. And this is one of the vices of gambling. He lost so badly. He lost his brothers. He lost his wife. And the Kauravas were so happy. They were celebrating. They wanted to insult Draupadi. They dragged her into the court. She challenged the Kauravas. How can this be true if Yudhishthira lost himself? Because he had lost himself. How can he then lay claim to me? How can somebody who has lost himself wager somebody else in the game? Nobody could answer that question. Even Bhishma was quiet. Even Dronacharya, who was in that court, was quiet. They were all quiet. Nobody defended Draupadi, who was really being insulted. It was really not good. It was very, very bad, extremely bad. And Karn, he called her all sorts of names. Duryodhana was calling her. Dushashan was ordered by Duryodhana, his brother, take off her sari. And he was really behaving so badly. And Draupadi, she was struggling. She was holding on. She was praying to Krishna, help me, Krishna. Eventually, she realized she can't do anything. She just let go and just surrendered to Krishna. Whatever you want, my dear Lord, whatever you want. At that time, Krishna gave unlimited sari. So much sari that Dushashan, he fell unconscious, not being able to remove the cloth from Draupadi's body. And this is one of the miracles that Krishna has performed in this Mahabharata. It's a really fantastic pastime. Anyway, after that, everybody was very sorry. They realized they made a mistake. The Dhritarashtra apologized. The king apologized. It was foolish king letting that happen, letting their sons behave like that. So I would say I would give you some advice. Never do something against your parents. The Dhritarashtra did try to advise Duryodhana, this is not good, but he would not listen. So don't be like Duryodhana. Be good children. If the parents say to you, this is not good, listen to them, believe them, trust them. They love you more than you can ever imagine. So don't dishonor your mother and your father. Anyway, the Dhritarashtra gave everything back to Draupadi, and he asked her, what more do you want? Draupadi said, I don't want anything more. She wasn't a greedy person. She was an amazing person. And they finally agreed to another game of dice. And again, they lost. This time they had to spend 13 years in the forest. The final 13th year would have to be incognito. If they were found, they would have to spend another 12 years plus one more year in incognito again. Anyway, they were in the forest for 12 years. Many things happened. Amazing things happened. We haven't got time to go through those amazing things. We're running short of time. So Bhim and Draupadi will always challenge Yudhishthira. You know, you were cheated by Sakuni. We should go and beat these guys up. But Yudhishthira was a man of principle. He wouldn't agree to anything like that. Anyway, Arjun went, he looked for celestial weapons in the heavens, and he was rewarded very thoroughly by the heavenly personalities. Karn also did the same. He went and learned the art of archery from Parshuram, one of the most amazing warriors of the time. Anyway, they knew there was going to be a war because Duryodhana was so against the Pandavas. At one time, this Duryodhana, he was caught by the Gandharvas. And the Pandavas, Arjuna especially, saved Duryodhana. And that was very humiliating for Duryodhana. He almost wanted to give up his life after that. He's such a character who had no principles whatsoever. So again, we can learn how not to become Duryodhana and have principles in our lives, which we stick by. Strong, good principles. I'll quickly pass through some of this. In the 13th year, they hid in a kingdom of King Virat, and many things happened there again. I'm going to just skip over that. Eventually, they passed through the 13th year without being caught out. And then they sent a message to the Dhritarashtra again, that please hand over our kingdom. But Duryodhana wouldn't do that. They approached Krishna. This is Duryodhana here, there's Arjuna here. They knew there was going to be a war. Duryodhana went to see Krishna thinking, I want your army. Arjuna was at the lotus feet of Krishna. Krishna saw Arjuna first and said, Arjuna, you're here. What would you like? Duryodhana said, wait, no, I was here first. My claim is first. But Krishna said, well, he's at my feet. You're at my head. The person at my feet, I can see first. So what would you like, Arjuna? You can have me or my army. I will not fight in this battle. You can have me or my army. What would you like? I'll have you, Arjuna said. I want you. I don't want your army. I want you. Duryodhana was thinking, oh, what a fool. I've got the army. Fantastic. And his army was huge and very, very strong. But the army's boss is Krishna. So Arjuna had Krishna. And Arjuna was really pleased, and Krishna was very pleased because he knew Arjuna was his devotee. Anyway, in order to avoid a battle, a war, Dhritarashtra sent an envoy to Yudhishthira. Be where you are, be happy. I'm not going to give you anything. Be happy. Yudhishthira, in turn, also didn't want a battle. He was a righteous man, right? But he's not a beggar. He is a warrior. He needs something to rule. So he sent Krishna to beg on behalf, not beg, to petition Dhritarashtra to not be so unreasonable. Krishna said to, he was the final peace envoy. And he spoke to Dhritarashtra. He spoke to Duryodhana. And Duryodhana would just say, no, they're not getting anything. Okay, Krishna said, my final offer, give them 5 villages. They will rule 5 villages. That's all you have to give them. They promise you they will not do anything to you. But Duryodhana said, I won't give them enough land, even if it fits on a piece of a pin. I will not give them even that land. They will get nothing from me. And he tried to then capture Krishna. He said to his soldiers, capture this peace envoy, which is a really bad thing to do. At that time, Krishna showed him this universal form. Duryodhana actually couldn't see it properly. He was blinded. But the others, Dronacharya, Bhishma, even Dhritarashtra was given this vision of Krishna as the universal form. I love this thing. You think I'm trouble now? When I come to offer peace, imagine me as your enemy in battlefield. Anyway, Duryodhana still wouldn't give in, and they started gaining allies. And eventually, anyway, before Krishna left, he went to see Karna, and he explained to Karna, look, you're actually one of the Pandavas. And if you want, you come to the Pandavas and they'll give you the kingdom. But Karna, he was so affected by this act by Duryodhana right at the beginning of their friendship that he said, no, I cannot abandon my crazy friend. I know he's crazy. I just cannot abandon him. So really that even the Lord can give us this independence to choose what we want to do. The Lord won't force us to do anything, but we must make the right choices. So then they prepared for the war. The Kauravas had 11 divisions, 2.4 million warriors on their side. And the Pandavas only had 7 divisions, 1.5 million. So that was the odds against the Pandavas to win. And this is Bhishma, the greatest warrior. Because of his vow, he had this strength which nobody could defeat. And he was real challenge to the Pandavas. And they tried their very best to have peace. But Duryodhana and his father just were not conducive to a peaceful solution to this situation. So two armies gathered in this place of Kurukshetra at loggerheads, about to start the war. And this is actually a different picture from, I just wanted to show you this Arjuna, Krishna, and they had this fantastic chariot and horses that was gifted to Krishna. And then just before the battle begins, this is Sanjay. He is a disciple of Vyasadeva. He was given this blessing that he could, from Hastinapur, which is thousands of, not thousands, maybe hundreds of miles away from Kurukshetra, he could see everything that was going on in the battlefield. So he sat with Dhritarashtra, the blind king, describing to Dhritarashtra what was taking place in the battlefield. And the very first verse of the Bhagavad Gita is Dhritarashtra uvacha dharam kshetra kurukshetra samaveta yutsava mamaka pandavachaiva kema kuruvat Sanjaya. Oh, Sanjaya, my sons and the sons of Pandu have gathered on the auspicious religious place of Kurukshetra. What are they doing? So that is the beginning. That is the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So I wanted to stop there. And I wanted to take questions. And actually, I wanted Sanjana to, she didn't say much. Sorry, I took over. I wanted you to answer the questions if there are. So are there any questions? You can raise your electronic hand and we'll unmute you. Okay. Maybe Shruti, you can unmute. Well, I've unmuted Hema anyway. Hema, go for it.
Where is Panchala?
Panchal.
Sorry, yeah.
Panchal. Modern day India. Do you know that, Shruti? Panchal. I think it's in Madhya Pradesh, but I might be wrong about that. Panchal. Sorry, we'll look it up and tell you. Okay.
I think it's an somewhere in North India near the Yamuna, like near the Yamuna or Ganga.
Okay. Thank you, Shruti.
Yes, like north up. It's between the upper Himalayas and the river Ganga.
Is it really? Panchal is there up there? Okay. 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 Thank you for that, Shruti.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Actually, this seems to say West Bengal. Anyway, we'll find out. So next is Riha.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Gandhari also has a daughter, so she has 101 in total. So how is her daughter born?
Very nice. Do you know that, Sanjana? Yeah, it's a tough question. Actually, what happened, Dhritarashtra was a little bit frustrated with Gandhari. The pregnancy was long, 2 years. He got a bit frustrated. And they also had a very beautiful maid. So he united with the maid and they had Dushala, the daughter. That's how the daughter came. Is that okay, Ria?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
And it's good. It shows you got good knowledge. The Mahabharata, there was about, I don't know, 30 years ago, a very good series of Mahabharata in the BBC showed it, BBC Two. And I think it's circulating. I can't remember exactly who's made it, but that is a fairly accurate, if you want to watch the Mahabharata and perhaps watch a little bit less television, that is a very good one I would recommend. It's quite accurate in its portrayal of the Mahabharata. Ishwari.
Where was the war taking place?
The battlefield called Kurukshetra, which I think is a particularly holy battlefield as well. So it's one that was designated specifically for the battle. I don't know about whereabouts that is in modern India, but I know that you can still visit it as well, I believe. Correct. We went there a few years ago, and it's a very good place of worship, holy place. It's above, it's on the way to Punjab, and it's probably about 100 miles north of Delhi in Haryana, I believe. And it's even the tree where Arjun and Krishna spoke to each other is still there. The Jyoti, I can't remember the name now of it. And you can see the atmosphere is quite electric. There's many very nice holy places there. So if you ever get an opportunity to go to Kurukshetra, I would recommend try to visit that place, holy place. Prathamesh?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I had a doubt that why didn't Kunti earlier only tell the Karna that he was against his own brothers?
She did tell him. Oh, sorry, Sanjana, is that something that you're familiar with?
Did Kunti tell him before? I think, well, I think there was a brief encounter, but I don't think it went down very well because I think he was, I think he was a bit hurt, which I think is valid. And also there was his finding with Duryodhan as well.
Yeah, she did tell him before the war because she wanted to avoid the war. But she didn't tell him immediately she saw him. She didn't tell anybody because it was shocking. You know, she was a young princess. If that realized she'd had a baby beforehand, she would have been ostracized. all sorts of repercussions could have taken place. And then later on, she didn't tell him because he was so close to Duryodhan. How could she tell him? But then when the war was inevitable, she told him, look, these are your brothers. And Kern was so magnanimous. He said to Kunti Devi, don't worry, after the war, you'll still have 5 sons. You still have Pandavas. Either me or Arjun will die. Such a great, magnanimous soul. But he was misguided because he made good friends with Duryodhan. And that was really a very, very bad mistake. That's why I'm saying to you guys, keep very good righteous company. If there's anybody with a tinge of unrighteousness, avoid them like the plague. If you want to succeed in spiritual life. Wow. Okay, Arjun. Oh, Arjun, yeah. Sorry. You can unmute yourself, Arjun. Yes, go for it.
So, I have like 2-3 versions of Mahabharata, and in one of them they're told there's like one sage that came and told that if he didn't give anything to the Pandavas, that Duryodhan would die.
Oh, okay, I haven't heard that before. Interesting, interesting. There are different versions of the Mahabharata. That's interesting. Thank you, Arjun, for sharing that. And it's good you've read. I'm really impressed, Arjun. Good boy. Ria.
Where was Krishna born?
Sanjana, do you want to do that one?
What was the
where was Krishna born?
Oh, where was Krishna born? He was technically he was in a prison. Because was the story told, or should I briefly?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Cover that with comes and his. My mom is over here. I'm trying to pick her brains. And so there was. There was comes and then there was his sister, and there was a prophecy that the child's 8th son of his sister would basically be the cause of his destruction. So he put the couple in prison, and every child that came, he said, I don't care, 8th, 1st, whatever, I'm going to destroy all of them. I'm not taking any chances. So he'd come and he basically, it was quite graphic, but he sort of dashed their brains out essentially. And then for the 7th son, which is Balaram, they managed to devise a plan to make sure that he could get out successfully. I think there was like and then for Krishna, there was a swapping of the babies. But technically Krishna was born there in the prison.
In Mathura.
And
it was taken to Gokul. And the beauty of the reason why Krishna was born in a prison, not a palace or a temple, is that we also live in a prison house of this material world. So Krishna is saying to us, don't worry. Just like you're living in a prison, I was born in a prison. I've come to help you. So this is the beauty of Krishna. He's such a kind, compassionate Lord who's come to take us back with him, you know. Very good. Shri Nitya.
Yeah, go on, Srinita.
In one of the pictures you showed of the Mahabharata, why was Hanuman in the picture?
Oh, wow, you are really amazing. Oh, wow. Very observant. Thank you. Do you want to take that one? Do you have a...
There was a Hanuman, what was the question?
Oh yeah, there was a Hanuman. Actually, it was in fact, I was looking at that same picture. I was thinking, wow, Hanuman's flying there. Actually, that picture is right at the end of the war. What happened was when Krishna left, when they finished the war, Krishna said to Arjun, you get off the chariot first. Arjun said, why? You should get off first because you're the Supreme Lord. I'll get off after you. No, you get off. Arjun got off, Krishna got off, and the chariot went into flames. It was like a big explosion because Krishna, while he was on the chariot, was protecting it from all the arrows and the celestial weapons that were hitting the chariot. At that moment, Hanuman left. He flew off just before the chariot exploded. So Hanuman came at the beginning. He's on the flag of Arjun. And he stayed right until the end of that battle. He promised Bhim that I will also be in this Mahabharata. I will be protecting your brother, Arjun. So this is the reason why Hanuman is there. Very observant and very clever question. I really like. How old are you, Shinitya?
I'm 7 years old.
My goodness, you're amazing. Thank you. Mira. Oh, sorry, where are you, Mira? I lost you. Can't see you now. Arya.
Why did Ganga reveal who she was?
Oh, why? Okay, good question. Because she wanted to reassure Shantanu. She loved Shantanu as well. But because she wanted to go back to heaven, she had been cursed actually to live on earth. To live on earth is a curse, but actually it's not a curse, it's a blessing because we can, from this world, earth, go back to the spiritual world. But in heaven, they enjoy themselves. So she wanted to go back to heaven, but she also loved Shantanu. So she said to Shantanu, I am actually from the heavens, I'm Ganga. I'm going to take your son, Devrat, but I promise you, I will bring him back. Because she didn't want Shantanu to feel, oh no, I've lost my wife and I've lost my son as well. So she cared for him. So that's why she revealed him herself and said, don't worry, I'll bring your son. He's going to be one of the greatest personalities on this planet. And he was, and he is. Is that okay, Arya? Okay, Josh.
Why is Krishna's skin color blue?
Fantastic question. I think we had that question last week, didn't we? If everybody's skin color is a little bit different, even if you're brown, there's different types of brown, right? Even if you're white, there's different pales, different whites. Even if you're black, you've got different variations of black. Krishna's color is described to be that of like a dark rain cloud. Very, very beautiful. He's known as Shyam Sundar. Shyam means black, Sundar means beautiful. Shyam Sundar, black beauty. That's just his color. That's his natural, beautiful color. There's nothing that can possibly match Krishna's color. We can never do it justice because we are always looking with material eyes, which is tainted. But Krishna's color is the most glorious, beautiful color. And we will only appreciate that when we are seeing him face to face in the spiritual world. It's unique. And Radha's color, you should know, is golden, molten gold. Very beautiful as well. Who hasn't asked? Navnidhi.
How long did Krishna ji live for on earth?
How long?
Did Krishna ji live for on earth?
Oh, he lived on earth? 125 years. Not too long. But he is eternal. Yeah, he never dies. And that's going to be one of the lessons that we learn in the Bhagavad Gita. First one, we also never will die. He doesn't die, we don't die either. Shruti.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
I just wanted to ask, there was this warrior called Ashwatthama. He's also known as one of the 7 like personalities who is considered to be immortal.
Yes.
So and then like a few days ago, I saw on YouTube that like some people actually saw him in real life as well as Hanuman. Is
Right.
that true?
It could be, but I wouldn't believe without a lot of evidence and proof that they've seen Ashwatthama or Hanuman. To be honest, it's not even important to see Ashwatthama. It's important to see Hanuman if we can. But to be honest, we should not worry too much about seeing them, but we should more engage in our behavior. The way, what I'm trying to say is, we want the Lord to see us by our behavior. We want the devotees like Hanuman to see us by our behavior. So it's not so important that we see them, but it's important for them to see us through our action. My dear Lord, let me serve you. Let me do something for you. Let me engage. Let me help others. Let me always be thinking of you like that. So whether they see
Okay.
or not, it doesn't matter too much. I think we actually have run out of time. Really fantastic question. I'm really happy. And I think I'd like to how long will the quiz take, Shruti?
I don't know, like 5 minutes.
Oh, 5 minutes.
It's just,
Let's take two more. Do we take two more questions? There's two more. There's two hands up. Let's take two questions, and then we'll go to the quiz. Pari or Ayush or Ishwari or Kishori. Maybe they've already asked the question. Maybe the hands were just up. Okay. Yes, go ahead.
How was Lord Balaram saved from being killed by Kant?
Now, you must understand, Balaram is the first expansion of Krishna. There's no chance that he can ever be killed. No chance. Yeah. But what happened was there was a wonderful devotee who loves Balaram more than anything. Her name is Rohini. And Rohini had such a strong desire to bear Balaram that Krishna made the arrangement with Yogamaya to transfer Balaram from the womb of Devaki to the womb of Rohini. So Rohini was in the prison in Mathura. Devaki was in the prison in Mathura. Rohini was living with Nanda and Yashoda in Gokul in Vrindavan. So they made the transfer. That's the first test tube baby transfer, if you like. So that was the first transfer done. And in that way, Balaram, it looked like Devaki had a miscarriage. So Kans became very proud. He said, hey, Krishna, Vishnu is even scared of me. See, he's had a miscarriage. So this was just to also puff up the ego of Kamsa, so that eventually he would be properly defeated by Krishna and Balaram. Is that okay, Ishwari? And okay, I think Pari, I don't know if you have a question. Otherwise, we shall.
Yes, Prabhu, sorry, I wasn't able to unmute before.
Yeah, that's okay.
So my question was that how you said that King Drupada, he had Shikhandi as a son. Am I right?
Correct. Yeah, the third one.
So, but somewhere I read that he actually had a daughter and he wanted a son to kill Dronacharya.
Correct. So, oh, yes, we said that. You're absolutely right. First came Draupadi, I believe, who was a daughter, but then Drustadumna came. And Drustadumna was the one to avenge against Dronacharya. Absolutely. But he also had this third son, Shikhandi, who actually defeated or very instrumental in helping defeat Bhishma. Is that okay, Pari?
Yeah, actually, I was told that Shikhandi was a daughter, and when the war was going on, then she turned into a son so that she could go in the Kurukshetra to kill Bhishma. So that's why I got a bit confused.
Oh, I see. I believe it was the other way around. I might be wrong, but I believe that Shikhandi was he, but he had the benediction of changing into a she for one day. And that day that was picked was the day when Bhishma was destroyed. So what happened? Bhishma had said, I will not fight if Shikhandi comes, right?
Yeah.
When Shikhandi came, he was actually a woman on that day. So that's why Bhishma could not fire an arrow against a woman. That was against the principles of Kshatriya.
Okay, thank you, Prof.
Yes. I stand to be corrected. If I'm wrong, please do correct me. And maybe that can be a little homework for.
Yeah, actually, because I watched it, it said that she was born as a female in this life as well, but because weren't allowed in the battlefield at all, like no females were allowed in Kurukshetra. That's why she
Okay.
came to a male.
Okay, now we'll do some research on that. Thank you for asking. Thank you for your participation. I like that very much. Very good. So let's, okay, Riansh, yes. You've been.
My Prabhuji.
Oh, wait, just 1 second. Just Just 1 second. Shruti, could you put the Kahoot link on the chat so that everybody can access that? So we're going to go to Kahoot.
Sure, Prabhuji.
And everybody, please have a different device, or if you have to leave the Zoom, fair enough. If you only got one device, leave the Zoom, go into Kahoot. We're going to do the quiz, and quiz is going to be important. It will show how much attention you're paying, and we will give some credit to those who get the highest marks in the quiz. Okay, sorry, Riansh, what were you going to say?
Prabhuji, I also have the same question. Do we have Kahoot?
Oh, okay, good, very good. So let's, Shruti, if you share your screen of the
Sure,
Kahoot,
Prabhuji.
and everybody please join Kahoot. This quiz is, firstly, it's entertaining, but secondly, it's also understanding. For next week, I wanted somebody to do the quiz on the learning of this week. And I was thinking perhaps Riansh can do the quiz, 10 questions from what we have learned this week. Or maybe, Pari, how old are you, Pari? Oh, you may not be able to. I'm gonna allow everybody to unmute, okay? But to stay muted, please. Huh? But you can unmute yourselves. How old are you, Pari?
Hey, Prabhu, I'm 16 years old.
Okay, I tell you what. Would you like to?
I would love to. I would love to make the quiz.
I would need to connect you with Chitra. Chitra is the invigilator. She will check the questions that you are asking.
All right.
So you can communicate with her. Chitra, if maybe you can just pass your WhatsApp number to Pari, or Pari, let your parents know that you're doing it so that I can pass Chitra's number to you.
Yeah, in the chat, if you want me to, I can just change who to send the message to, and I can send Chitra Mataji my number.
Yeah, just to her. Don't send it to everybody, huh? Please.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
And you said Chitra Mataji. Are you a devotee?
Oh, actually, so I've been taught to call everyone who's like older than me, or who are helping out with this, Prabhuji or Mataji.
Very good. Very, very good. Tell me the name of your mom and dad.
My mom's name is Monica Juneja.
Okay. Wow, very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, so everybody in? Anybody missing? Okay, Shruti.
Okay. Sure, Prabhuji. Oh wait, there's still people coming in.
Okay, let them come in. We've actually got there's another Zoom session starting in 15 minutes. So you got a bit of time, so don't worry.
Sure, Prabhuji.
And I hope everybody enjoyed the session. And
Can everyone hear me?
yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm gonna mute everybody. So only Shruti, just unmute yourself. Huh?
Okay, I think I should start. Hope everyone is here. There will be the link, the game pin on the bottom of the screen. So I hope you can join in later.
And Shikra, if you just make a note of the top 3, please.
So the quiz is starting. What does the Bhagavad Gita mean? Is it red, song of the god, blue, the epic battle, yellow, chanting of the name of the Lord, or green, the amazing conversation? Four more seconds left. Okay, it was the song of the god, which most of you got it. Which chapters are the Bhakti Yoga in the Bhagavad Gita? Is it chapters 1 to 6, 13 to 18, or 7 to 12? Again, chapters 1 to 6, chapters 13 to 18, or chapters 7 to 12? It was chapters 7 to 12. This one gives you double points. What does Prakriti mean? Does it mean activity, the supreme controller, material nature, or time? Again, activity, supreme controller, material nature, or time? It is the material nature. Who said 84 verses in the Bhagavad Gita? Sri Krishna, Arjuna, Sanjaya, or Dhritarashtra? Sri Krishna, Arjuna, Sanjaya, or Dhritarashtra? It was Arjuna. Name one reason why the first chapter is crucial to read. Red, it is the chapter setting the scene. Yellow, it is important because it has history in it. Blue, it tells us that if we take shelter from God, He will show the problems our solution. Green, because it is the only verse that has been said by Dhritarashtra. It is blue. It tells us that if we take shelter from God, He will show us the problem / the solution. Why did Krishna speak the Bhagavad Gita on the battlefield? To make it seem so cool. That is why Arjuna asked him, so he thought he would tell it there. He liked battlefields. Our lives are like battlefields, so we can take shelter of Krishna. It is green, color green. This is multi-select, so you can select a lot of answers. Who is Srila Prabhupada's commentary based on? You can say there are 2 correct answers. Srila Baladeva Vidya Bhushana, yellow Srila Raghavendra, Srimad Bhagavacharya, green Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura. It is Srila Baladeva Vidya Bhushana and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura. This is also multi-select. What are the reasons why you think you should learn the Bhagavad Gita? To show Krishna that I'm serious about wanting to understand him. It is our religious text. We can be relieved from anxieties to show that you're cool. and that we can be relieved from anxieties. Last 2 questions. This is also multi-select. How should I learn the Bhagavad Gita? Click on which ones you think it is. You should be enthusiastic, dispirited, enervated, or animated. Again, enthusiastic, dispirited, enervated, or animated. You should be enthusiastic and animated. Last question. How many chapters are there in the Bhagavad Gita? 18, 28, 8, or 18.8? There are 18 chapters in the Bhagavad Gita. Now we will have the grand reveal. In 3rd place, we have Pari and Ayush. 2nd place, we have Lokeshwara. And in 1st place, we have Riyansh, I think.
Impressive. Well done.
Well done.
Very good. Now, just a few admin issues. I don't know if Chitra, I don't know if you've managed to capture everybody. I think there's a couple of people who are not on the list, and maybe just make a note of their names so that I can try to work out who they are. If anybody has not been registered, now remember, to get the certificate, you're going to have to attend at least 90% of the course or 80% of the course. So if you've not registered, if we don't know you're here, then how can we register you? So please let us know. You can either put it on the chat or your mom and dad can send a WhatsApp message to me. And just Pari, just to mention, I did a check on Google, our guru, and you were right. Shikandi actually born a lady, but he was brought up as a son. And later on, he transformed as a man. So thank you for that. It's good to know. So many bits and pieces that we're not sure about. So, okay. So let me just stop the record. Thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the session. I'm just going to stop the record anyway. I really appreciate everybody's participation. And Sanjana, thank you so much.